this is just my opinion. Anything I say from here on out, you got to keep in mind it's just that opinion. So this is not a one size fits all type of thing for the entire company when it comes to my experience in working with Terminix. This is only my personal experience working for Terminix in Omaha, Nebraska.
Obi-Wan Kenobi, please hold me, don't show me, Obi.
I have worked at a lot of different places over the last few years. I had a pretty good career that I gave up in order to try and start a business. Long story short, that business did not work out for me. And as a result, I ended up dipping my toes back into corporate America, basically getting a job again, a real big boy job. And I worked some pretty shitty ones until I found a company that was finally pretty good, one that I can put up with for a while. One of those companies that I ended up working for was Terminix. And before I start this rant, I do want to say that I don't really make it a point to trash companies, but my experience here was so bad that I felt like I needed to say something about it. So I did do a little research before I applied at Terminix, and they were rated about 3 out of 5 stars on websites like Indeed. They have a bunch of negative reviews, but if I'm being honest, I was a little desperate to find a job at the time. So I was willing to take just about anything. And the first interview was over the phone with somebody from Memphis, I believe. And I think it was also a third party, maybe a third party interviewing company. Could have been in-house, but I don't know. I passed that interview, though I don't really think it's very hard to pass that one. And they moved me to an interview with the local branch manager. In that interview, the manager was very focused on delivering the benefits of the company car, the company phone. And honestly, most of the jobs that I've had in the last 10 years came with that. So I wasn't terribly impressed by it. But again, I needed a job. So I said, yeah, I'm actually excited about the opportunity, and everything sounded pretty good. So up to this point, I was just like, yeah, let's do it. I accept the offer. Let's get the ball rolling. Again, if I'm being honest, it was the best opportunity at the time. So I stopped looking. I stopped looking, and I signed the paperwork to get the background and the drug test, all that stuff started, good to go. But this was the first of a lot of WTFs that I experienced with the company. I know from experience that most background checks typically take about a week. The most recent background check that I did for the company I'm working at now was no more than an hour, actually. Got it back really quick. But this Terminix background, that check took almost 2 months. I had it on the calendar that I should start this new job within about 2 weeks at the latest. After the first call, after the first week, I called. And I was like, hey, are we still good with this offer? Are we, I haven't heard anything about this background check. And the guy, the manager, was just like, yeah, just give it another week or so, and we'll go from there. This is the same conversation week after week. So I would call, and I was persistently getting a little more annoyed, more aggravated in my voice. I was just like, hey, this has been 3 weeks. This has been 4 weeks. Anyway, I finally got to the point where I just started looking for jobs again. And stopped calling the branch because after about 5 weeks into that background check, I got nothing. But then I did get a call from them, from the interviewer in the corporate office or whatever. And he says, hey, Justin, how's everything going? Are you still interested in this position? And I said, yeah, I'm actually ready to start now. In fact, I need to start now because I'm currently unemployed and I need to get some kind of an income going. And he says, oh, well, the local branch manager should have contacted you and had you sign this contingency form saying that you can start work, but we basically reserve the right to let you go if you end up failing the background check. I said, yeah, cool, whatever. I'm not really worried about failing this background check, so let's do it. But then it still took about another week to get started after that conversation. So after all the BS, I'm finally on board, and I'll skip past the first few weeks because it was pretty typical sit in the office and watch safety videos type stuff, other basic training. But the first real flag here was when I was talking to some of the people there. I'm a social person, so I'll naturally go and talk to my fellow employees and try to get to know people. And a few of the technicians said almost the same thing. something along the lines of, I'm not even going to bother to learn your name because you won't be here in a month, something like that. So just to make the distinction here, I was in sales. I'm what was called a OSP, or a outside sales professional. And these, the people that I were talking to were actually the pest control technicians. And traditionally, like, the relationship between sales and operations anywhere can be a little tricky. So I didn't read too much into it, but I did find out fairly quickly that turnover for my position was pretty high. But anyway, we'll get into it, because the job went quickly from maybe this just isn't for everyone to pretty much this job is ridiculous. The first real issue that I had was with the daily morning meeting. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I don't, if a company wants you to start your day at the office, that's cool. But I would hope that you would at least make it worth your while, or at the very least work with your schedule so that you can take care of all your appointments for that day, which we'll get into here in a bit. But this meeting was really nothing more than coming in and writing some numbers on a board. And that was pretty much it. Something that could very much be sent by email. But I don't know, maybe you want to make sure that your salespeople are actually setting an alarm to get up at a certain time, whatever, I don't know. The crappy thing is the manager actually has access to these numbers just by logging into the computer sales software. Us salespeople did not have that same access, so we actually had to add the numbers up. Long story short, it was an unproductive waste of time. And it was really something that the managers, since they were able to pull these numbers up, could have just presented the numbers to his salespeople and said, you're either hitting target, you're not hitting target. The fact that we had to add it up and then write it on a board didn't make sense, and it was such a waste of time. You could be doing role plays, other things other than that. But anyway, so I felt the meetings were a waste of time, whatever. But red flag number 2 was that it was something called creative leads. So anyone in sales knows that an incoming lead, like, incoming leads can be gold, and anything that you don't have to actively go out there and pound on doors to find yourself is usually kind of a luxury. But not at Terminix, because Terminix loves to call current customers to look for new sales opportunities. Not only that, they like to outsource this to a foreign company, foreign call centers. So now, they're calling on customers and pretty much just trying to land this free inspection, which I'll talk about here in a second. But it could be a good opportunity. Calling on current customers could be a good thing. It could be an opportunity for new business, but the strategy that they use, really, it's not good. It kind of sucks, because what all they're doing is calling a current customer and saying, hey, you're due for a free home inspection. You've been a customer with us for a while, so you're due for a home inspection. We're going to send an inspector to your house, and this, of course, is free of charge. This is a service that we provide at no cost for you, because you're our valued customer. Something along those corny lines, right? So then, of course, we're supposed to get out there, go do these free home inspections, and basically we're supposed to offer them a new service that they're not paying for. So for instance, if a customer already has a pest control program with us, then we're supposed to sell them preventative termite treatment or attic insulation, something that they're already not paying for. The customer is told that we offer the inspection as a complimentary part of the service, so they're expecting an inspector to come out and make sure the services we sold them are working. So the customer's mindset is that at that point, the customer's mindset is, okay, they're just coming to make sure that the general pest control I signed up for is actually keeping pests away, right? They usually aren't expecting to be sold anything new, but behind the scenes, the branch manager is he'll tell you that you need to bid a new service to every customer you do an inspection for. Doesn't matter how many services they currently have. Doesn't matter if there's actually not an issue. They could have pristine attic insulation, but that manager is wanting you to bid for attic insulation. There's something, the mindset is that there is something they aren't currently paying for that we need to sign them up for. Now, I'm not 100% against that. Again, incoming leads can be a good thing. If they manage to set up an opportunity to go inspect a house and find something new to sell that, it could be a good opportunity. But These creative leads that we set up through the means that we set them up, they only usually yield about a 10% close rate. And that has really nothing to do. It is a small factor whether or not you're a good salesperson or not, right? But on the average across the company, it's usually about a 10% close rate for those leads. They just aren't as good as good old-fashioned self-generated leads. So to give a quick example of a self-generated lead in pest control, if you had gone on an inspection and found active termites on somebody's property, right? That means you went to somebody's home and termites are literally eating their house. Then and it's causing all kind of damage. Now, a good salesperson would go knock on all the neighbors' doors and say, hey, I'm an inspector with Terminix, and I just wanted to let you know that I found active termites in your neighborhood. I'd love to do a complimentary inspection for you to make sure that, they're not already in your home, and that we can also go over some options to help prevent them from ever getting into your home, that type of situation. I can't say that it's the same across the board with this company, but in Omaha, we never really got the opportunity to generate our own leads. Because they would fill our schedules with these call center generated creative leads. Their focus was keeping us busy. I mean, that's all they really wanted to do. They were so worried that we would just screw off all day and not try to make any sales that they would pump our schedule full of these leads that just don't really generate much in new business. They want you to be, and then, they want to hold you accountable for the low close rates and stuff like that. My opinion, but a good salesperson should be hungry for sales. Especially when you're in a position like this, that is a 100% commission base. When you get past all the different levels of sales training, you're at 100% commission. So why wouldn't you let that person go out there and try to make their own sales, right? This is not a place for sales professionals. I guess that's what I'm getting to. This is a place that can't keep people employed because the way they micromanage. They micromanage and they keep their sales staff doing busy work all day instead of actually figuring out a way to make self-generated leads. Okay, so anyway, I know this is getting kind of long, but here's red flag number 3. For me, was the amount of leads that were given to us every day. And you have to take into consideration that a lead is an appointment. So basically at Terminix, that means every lead you are given as a customer that was already set up with an inspection appointment. This is scheduled within a 2-hour time frame. And like most corporate companies are doing these days, Terminix likes to overbook these appointments. So, just in case somebody decides to cancel their appointment, they want to make sure that the schedule is full. So they're full. So think about the airlines and how they overbook flights. It's kind of like that. But here at the Omaha branch of Terminix, they would schedule 3 2-hour time slot appointments every 2 hours, if that makes sense. That just means you have 3 appointments between the hours of 8 to 10, 3 appointments between the hours of 10 to 12, so on, stuff like that. It was really unrealistic scheduling. There was a lot of days you could not make it to your appointments. And they knew that. And the answer from the branch manager was just, you're supposed to try and get what you can done, try and get it done, and reschedule what we could. Keep in mind that you have an entire territory to cover with different cities in your territory. So they would schedule you 2 8 to 10s in one city, and then your third 8 to 10 would be, an hour's drive away. It was stupid. So the final red flag, and the reason I ended up leaving the company, was because of the branch manager and his micromanagement. The branch manager in Omaha, we'll call him Captain Hook. And if you worked in the Omaha branch around the time that I did, late 2019, early 2020, you'll get the reference. But anyway, this guy tries to play himself off as a leader, not a boss. One of those guys, which reminds me, I'll have to write this down to make a video about how leader, not a boss, is just some corporate bullshit slogan. But that was his opening when I came on board, that he was a leader, not a boss, something stupid like that. Now, the first real argument that we got into was because I knocked off early on a Friday. I went home. But let me put things into perspective, because I am not the first sales guy in the company to only work a 6-hour day on Friday. I am the one that did share my concerns about the morning meeting and other things. So I was open, I was honest. I'd have conversations with my boss and let him know, hey, these morning meetings, I feel like they're unproductive, which most likely hurt his feelings because, he was holding those meetings. So I don't really know. I'm not going to try to pretend to be in his head, but I told him that I felt the meeting was unproductive. And I also told him that the amount of leads we were given were just unsustainable because of two factors. One, I don't like to reschedule people. They were promised a certain time, and I feel like we should have not overbooked so that we can keep those times. And two, I'm not willing to commit to this 12 to 14 hour daily commitment that they were asking for, because the morning meeting, again, this was set at 7:30 a.m. And then Captain Hook told me that I was to remain on the clock until 5 p.m., which just means that he didn't want me going home for more than an hour between the hours of like 7:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. But the company also wants to schedule you these appointments between 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Like 2 to 3 appointments between 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. And yeah, you're expected to keep those appointments too. There's nothing complicated about all this, right? Not yet. Okay. So anyway, I went home early on Friday. I didn't cancel any appointments. I just got them all done, and I didn't have any more to do. So I clocked out. But being that I'm a commission-based pay, there really isn't a clock to punch, but you get it, So I stopped at a couple of Goodwills on my way home. I love thrift shopping, so I stopped on a couple of Goodwills on my way home. And come Monday, Captain Hook calls me in for a one-on-one, and he asked me about the previous week, and it was kind of obvious what he was doing. It was obvious that he was lining up his questions in a way that he was going to try to catch me in a lie. Like he wanted that gotcha moment, right? And here's a lesson from How to Be a Bad Manager 101. If you really want to piss off an employee and get into a confrontation, then make sure that you try to back them in a corner and catch them in a lie, because that's going to work every time. Instead of just being honest and upfront and saying, something like, I don't think that you're making the best use of company time. Here's why. Here's the explanation why, and what are we going to do about it? Instead, just try to ask these questions and catch them in a lie. But I didn't fall for it. I've been around the old block before, and I could tell he was waiting for his big gotcha moment. I think he thought I was going to tell him that, I worked all day very hard on Friday or whatever, but I told him I got my appointments done, came back to the branch to work on some proposals, then went home. And then he said, well, it looks like you went to a couple of Goodwills on company time. He put this together because you can track the company vehicle through the monitored GPS program that they use, whatever. And of course, he compiled all this data before our one-on-one because he was really hoping to get me in a gotcha moment. Then I just said, I feel like I wasn't on company time because I was done for the day, right? I wasn't out there doing anything on company time. I feel like I clocked out. I feel like I was done, and then just stopped at a couple of Goodwills on the way home. So he basically said, look, man, you're not off the clock until 5 p.m. You should have been making calls to our canceled customer list or some bullshit. Forget the fact that I had already put in 40 hours that week. Even more than 40. I worked 40 plus hours that week. Forget the fact that I worked until past 7 p.m. 2 days earlier that week. Forget the fact that I had already met my sales goals for the week. Forget all that. He was just concerned that I did not stay in the branch until 5 p.m., whatever. So it was at that point that I was basically like, you know what? Forget it. This job isn't worth it. I wasn't the only sales guy who went home before 5 that day. I wasn't the only technician that went home before 5 that day, but I was the only one that expressed my concerns with him in the past. And he tried to play it off like you could openly talk about any issue you might have. But as soon as I did, he just took offense to it and started pulling his staff out, pulling stuff out of his hat to put me in my place. So it was pretty petty nonsense is all it was. So I ended up laying out a timeline with him. And in this conversation, I was like, Let's lay it all out. I was basically lining up the timeline and see exactly what his expectations are. So I ended up laying out the timeline, and I was like, look, man, so you want me to start at 7:30 a.m., right? And he's like, yep. Then you want me to stay away from home until 5 p.m. unless it's like an hour for lunch around midday. Yep. What if all my appointments are done by 2 and I'm close to home where I have a home office? I have a home office where I have a computer, phone, all the stuff that I can make sales calls, stuff like that. You still want me to come back to the branch and make sales calls? He's like, yep. Then you also want to schedule appointments for me between the hours of 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Yep. It's like, so you want a 12-hour minimum daily commitment. And not to mention 2 Saturdays a month, because you work every other Saturday, basically. He's like, hey, man, that's the job. That's the job. What got me is how cocky he was about the position. Now, if this came with a 6-figure income, it might be worth the stress, but it's not, and it doesn't. Even though there are territory salespeople out there that are making that much money in the company, it's not the case in Omaha because of the wacky scheduling and those creative leads that they're so proud of, really. Realistically, with the way things are set up, you might be able to pull $60K a year if you have a very high close rate. But you're more likely to come in between the 40 to 50 a year range. If you do the math, that time commitment is still going to put you in the mid-teens. If you want to calculate an hourly wage, you'd be looking at about $15-ish per hour. And I believe that's kind of what you can expect from this position across the company in general, is about $15 an hour. Again, some salespeople make pretty good money, but that's definitely not the standard, especially not in Omaha. Meaning you'd probably be better off finding a job that pays an hourly wage and allows for overtime, because you definitely do not get any kind of overtime working for Terminix. They want you on the clock. On the clock is a tough way. It's a bad way to put it, but they want you to be available for the company. They want this 12 to 14 hour daily commitment from you with 2 Saturdays a month. So their time demands are a lot. But just like anything, it also boils down to management. We all have that restaurant that we won't go to because it's poorly run. The management here was just bad. And from what I've experienced, I think it's been bad for a while. But anyway, I don't have to worry about him or that place anymore. I will never recommend Terminix to any of my friends or family as a place to work, or even as a place to call for pest control. After my experience, I just wouldn't do that. And I guarantee if you set up a free inspection with Terminix because you have termites or something like that, your inspector is going to tell you that you need, termite treatment combined with general pest control, and probably throw in that you need attic insulation too, because their job is really just to stack as much stuff on you as they can. It's the more you buy, the more they get paid. But if you're thinking about a job with Terminix, I really hope this helps. I think it's important for us to start speaking out about this crap, because a lot of these companies put us through some stuff. And, the average Joe has did I say the average Joyce? The average Joyce or the average Joe has a voice now. And again, remember, this is all my opinion. That was my experience with Terminix anyway. So if you're thinking about a job there, don't say I didn't warn you. But at the same time, maybe the branch in your area has an awesome leadership team, and it might be a good opportunity. There is potential with the company. I won't say it was all a horrible experience. And as far as, jobs that don't require a bachelor degree or other skilled training, it's not bad. It really just depends on the local management and what you're willing to put up with. Anyway, if you're one of the few looking into a job at Terminix, I hope this helped. I hope this helped you out. I hope you helped you with the decision. And thanks for checking out the video. Take care.
A hippopotamus. I ride a hippopotamus. You can ride my hippopotamus. You can ride my hippopotamus.